Roar. Okay, he is clearly. What do you want? Outside? Oh. Okay, I'll take you outside, bro. Okay. I live in like this desert town. Also, look at these flowers. But today I'm going to talk about how I flopped out of New York City and now I live in my hometown. I think I went from a very fast-paced New York City life to a very slow-paced, soft life. Roar! What do you have to say to the cameras? Huh? What do you have to say? Oh, you're disrespectful. Oh, he's so sweet. Okay, you can have. This is my fish pond. There's fishies in there. Let's take a look into them. Okay, so how I went from a $80,000 a year mechanical engineer in Silicon Valley to a $10,000 in debt, moving out of New York City, living with your parents. 20s person in your 20s. Well, let's begin. So in May 2021, I finally saved up about $12,000 for my engineering job in Silicon Valley in the Bay Area, California, to move to New York City to pursue my dreams of doing stuff in the arts and fashion and drag, toured a ton of apartments, got this really good realtor or broker, I don't know the difference, who toured me like a ton of apartments, all on the Upper East Side, some in-house kitchen, and I will put in a ton of videos of my apartment search because during the pandemic there was pandemic pricing, and so pandemic pricing was you were looking at $1,500 to $2,000 for a studio or one bedroom in Manhattan, in some places for like a bare minimum one. So I just took out 5 places, and 3 of them, 2 or 3, really fit my bill, and might be the ones. I'm checking out a place in Hell's Kitchen right now, and area-wise, it's fine. I stayed here last year with a friend. Area-wise, it's fine. Still exciting. The apartment is better, or like on the same level as the ones I just saw, then it might be a serve. Otherwise, Upper East Side it is. And so the one that I landed on, the apartment that I landed on was on the Upper East Side on 93rd Street. I mean, I can give out the info, I don't live there anymore. 93rd and 2nd, those are the cross streets. I found this 1-bedroom apartment for about 400 square feet for $1,550 as pandemic pricing. I knew that the next year it'd be $1,850 because the pandemic pricing would be no more. So I moved in there, I gave about $4,000 for first month's rent and security deposit. And so that lowered my $12,000 to like, let's say $8,000. And then for that couple months, I was still working remotely as an engineer, but I knew the shoe would drop, because I was working as an engineer in Silicon Valley and it was the pandemic, it was thick pandemic. And so we were all working from home, but I knew eventually we'd have to return to the office. So I'm like, I'm living in New York allegedly. When I have to return to the office, I'm gonna quit. So I knew that I only had 1 or 2 more months of an engineering salary. So I decided to furnish the apartment, and this is my mistake number 1, furnishing, not accounting for furnishing from scratch everything. And like, I'm not like a straight guy or like a DL guy who has like who just has a mattress on the floor. Like, I kind of have like a bit higher standards when it comes to like my situation of living. So I should have, before moving to New York, saved up honestly an extra $5,000 for a total of $17,000 for furniture, because it cost me about $5,000 to furnish my entire apartment, like everything. And I did make a lot of pricey purchases. The one thing that I got that like I kind of regret, but I kind of don't regret, is the Purple V4 mattress. The most amazing, best mattress I've ever slept on. Every guy that I've ever had over, or every like friend I've had host over, has been like, this mattress is amazing. I got it on Craigslist for $1,000, not $4,000. But the movers cost like $750. New York movers, every time you get something from Facebook Marketplace or from Craigslist, even if it's super cheap, it's gonna be $200 to $1,000. Period. For them to move it to your apartment and bring it up my 70 stairs. Oh, that was this apartment. One reason why it was so cheap, $1,550, was because it had 70 stairs up and down. Imagine going in and out of your apartment 10 times a day. That's like 10 times 70 stairs times going up and down. It was a lot. It was really difficult, all those stairs. Anyway, that's May 2021 and when I moved there, and like, you know, I furnished it. In July 2021 is when the other shoe dropped and my engineering job was no more, because they were like, let's come back into the office in 2 weeks, everyone. I was like, I put in my 2 weeks notice, and I was just like, yeah, you know, it's time for me to move on. And so I went from 80K salary to 0 salary. By this time, I was already working as a drag queen in New York City about 1 or 2 nights a week. And that was just me getting into the scene, finding community. Come about September, so it's like July, August and September is kind of like a very much unemployed in New York vibe, and my cash in the bank was going down. It was just going down. That's like 2 months of rent. I think by this time I had like a couple thousand, like 2,000 or 3,000 in the bank. I got a part-time job, 20 hours a week at a dog walking company, at this like boutique dog walking company that walked Upper East Side dogs. Fun fact, I walked Sigourney Weaver's dog, and I didn't even know it was her dog for a few weeks until somebody told me. But I was being paid at this place 20 hours a week, $25 an hour. And so that was a decent amount of money, but definitely not enough to cover, let's say, $2,000 in just expenses every month. And so I also got a part-time job as a host and a go-go dancer at a renowned nightclub called House of Yes for another 20 bucks an hour on call. So like, it'd be like every couple weeks I come in for like 4 to 8 hours, get some checks. I was just working a bunch of part-time jobs at this point. Then disaster strikes. Like, I'm living my New York life. I'm finding community. I'm getting pretty, you know, well connected into the drag scene, making drag garments for people for like $200 to $500 a pop. I probably did like 5 drag garments in the 2 years that I was in New York City. But anyway, all these part-time jobs and all this community and all this nightlife. In February 2022, about 8 months into New York City, I'm served my first eviction notice. Do I have it? Here it is. But as you can see on my eviction notice, it's for the months of this month, like 3 months. Every 3 months, if you don't pay, they serve you an eviction notice. And this is where I must admit I'm kind of an idiot about finances and about, I don't know where I went wrong, because I'd been living and working as an engineer for like 3 years before this, and like was never financially unstable. So in my head, I was like, everything will be fine, whatever, I'll pay them like later. And so come February 2022, someone knocks on my door. I'm not home, I have a friend over. The friend takes the packet, and I get home and I'm like, oh, someone gave me a letter. And I'm like, and it's an eviction notice for the 3 months that I had been deficient. And like, I had 1 month of rent at that time, 8 months into New York City. I only had 1 month rent because it's just so absorbently expensive, and I should have had like a full-time job, but I had like multiple part-time jobs. And so this is like when things really sank in, and I was like, oh shit. At that point, I tried to sell my car in Texas I had, but my parents were like, no, don't sell the car, we'll loan you like the amount and you'll pay it back whenever. And I was like, okay. So I got a handout from my parents. I have those resources and I'm very grateful for them, and I know a lot of people don't, but that's when I really had my first like, that's when things sank in that like, oh, I cannot just live here and have fun. Even though I'm working about 30 hours a week, I can't just live here and have fun. So come the next month, March 2022, I got another job at Barry's Boot Camp. It's like this fitness boutique that does classes for $15 an hour for 10 to 15 hours a week. And then I get also at that same time a summer internship with a designer who designs stuff for Broadway and drag, but that was for free. So basically what my day-to-day was looking like was like 6 a.m. wake up, go to Barry's Boot Camp and work for 4 hours until 10 or 11 a.m. 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. walk dogs 10 miles for those 4 hours. 2 p.m. to like 7 p.m. go uptown and go to my design internship, my summer internship, work there. And then sometimes at night, like from 10 p.m. to 3 a.m. work in drag clubs and do drag and perform. And so that was like the grind Like I went to Berkeley for mechanical engineering. That shit was hard, but this was tiring. I was exhausted. Like when I think about New York, my time in New York City, the 2 years, I think about exhaustion because every single day, like 6 a.m. job number 1, 11 a.m. job number 2, 2 p.m. job number 3, 10 p.m. job number 4. And so I'm about a year into New York City at this point, and my rent is raised to $18.50 a month. And I'm a little freaked out, but then I'm like, okay, I need to really make some changes because I'm again dipping and dotting like down, and like 1 month rent is like accumulating, and then 2 months rent, I'm like, it's just a matter of time. So I start bartending school, and I'll talk about bartending school later, but bartending school, it was worth it to learn how to bartend. In the field, nobody cares about bartending school. Like none of the recruiters or bar managers, they don't care. They want bartending experience. So I finagled my way into a really fancy hotel as a bar back, making $25 to $30 an hour for 20 to 35 hours a week. And that was a pretty decent amount of income. I'd quit my other jobs by this point. And so I'm in September 2022, and I'm a bar back at this fancy hotel. I mean, I didn't quit Barry's Bootcamp, I got fired, but whatever, like that was so annoying. And so at this point, I had already accumulated another 3 months of failed rent. And I'm like, I'm gonna get hit with another eviction notice soon. I need to figure something out. I encourage every New Yorker to look up like the One Shot program. It's a one-shot program that really helps people in New York who need help with their rent, and sometimes they'll cover rent. And so this One-Shot program, I will link it, or like I'll put something. This One-Shot program covered like 2 or 3 months of my rent, and like just sent that money to the landlord. And I was in the clear. For the summer, and then I was barbacking and working, and then like kind of like in stasis again. But towards the end of the year, 2022, I just couldn't make enough money because at the same time I had like a bunch of credit card debt accumulating. So my expenses were like $18.50 a month for rent, another $100 to $200 for electricity, Wi-Fi, other stuff, a couple $100 a month for food, some transportation, $500 a month for credit cards, like $300 to $500. It was just a lot. And so I'm ashamed to say I got my second eviction notice. This is the one. At the end of the year in 2022, even though I was working my way towards being a real bartender and like making some like big money, this is what like I figured out I had to get out of here. So my parents paid for the eviction notice. Like they paid for it, and they were like, yeah, you got to be an engineer again. Like there's no, like, what are you doing? Like, be an engineer again. That was my plan all along, to be an engineer if I had failed out of New York City, which is like where I'm at right now. And so all of those jobs together, it couldn't cover everything. So at the end of the 2022, I'm like, I'm almost a bartender. I'll move out when my lease is over in May 2023. And so at this time, come the new year, I get a job as a bona fide bartender. I know I'm gonna work there until like May 2023, from January to May as a bartender. And so I work at this like trendy, like trendy new Italian place for about $30 an hour, sometimes $35, depending on tips, for about 25 to 35 hours a week. And that was honestly pretty good. If I had kept that up from the very start, I may have been in a different situation, but it did take me about 6 months to become a bartender from like just my interest. And so from then on, in May 2023, I decided I'm going to move out. I'm going to cut my losses. I'm going to put all my stuff in storage unit for about $100 a month, 100 to 150. And you know, I'm going to find my way back into engineering and then move back to New York City when I am a 40-hour a week engineer making at least 100K, because that's the only way I'm going to move back there, because like I'm just like kind of triggered by how much everything costs, and I wasn't even living lavishly. So I think some things to note. I mean, I already said how much I made at all of these jobs and how much my rent was, and security deposit was 1 month's rent equivalent. Just to give you a sense of like my lifestyle in New York City, I did fun things from here and there, like once a week or once every other week. I never really spent a ton on bars and like a ton on restaurants, but like every now and then, like maybe every once or every other month, I would go to like a nicer restaurant or a nicer bar and get a few drinks. I did take 4 trips, like 4 vacation trips in New York City. The first one was right when I got there. When I quit my engineering job, I went to Paris, and I should not have went to Paris. I mean, I was just so optimistic that I'd be fine and I'd get a job in the fashion industry or something. But anyway, I spent a lot of money in Paris and my flights to Paris right when I got to New York City. But the other 3 trips were a little bit local, like Boston, Cape Cod, and Montreal. They were each trips that took about $500 to $750 total. which could have helped in the end. Furnishing, like I said, was a huge thing that I should have known. Was $5,000 total for me. I loved past tense my New York City apartment, but it's gone now, but I still have all the furniture. My big mistake number 2 was not getting a full-time job from the bat. Like, I shouldn't have done these like part-time jobs and like part-time jobs and I'll do art on the side and part-time jobs. Like, it was not financially sustainable. I should have just gotten a full-time job that paid me at least $20 to $25 an hour. I would have been fine. If I had done that, I think my third mistake was potentially not moving out of my apartment after a year. Because after a year, I had already like been racking up debt and my credit cards, and I already been served 1 eviction notice. I should have known that, like, even though my apartment was a steal, because $1,500 to $1,800 for a 1-bedroom in Manhattan is unheard of. And I feel like I only got that deal because it had so many stairs. It was kind of like in a place called Yorkville, which is on the Upper East Side, but it's a little bit more working class. But I just didn't want to move out. And if I had moved out and, like, let's say I found like a $1,200 shared space or something, I think I would have been a little bit better. But I think I was very opportunistic moving to New York and just thinking that I'm going to be financially stable just based on my sewing abilities and my creative talents alone. I should have really dipped my toe slowly into the water by getting a full-time job until I could actually make enough living doing fashion or drag in some sense. I was applying to engineering jobs like the whole time in New York City, like the 2 years, but getting an engineering job is insanely hard. Like, even after college, after I graduated, it took me 6 months to get a job. And so if you want an engineering job in general, it's like 1,000 applications and you'll get one. Like, and I just didn't put in 1,000 applications. I put in like probably 200 during my time. I should have also been more decisive because I knew that I could sew well. I could sew men's clothes, women's clothes, and drag. And I was thinking of either becoming like a fashion design assistant or have like selling clothes on like the side and like farmers markets too, and like, you know, small boutiques and stuff. And then like, or just being a drag designer and like selling clothes $500 a pop, like for each commission, which is pretty reasonable. But I kind of didn't do any of these 3 things solidly. I just did like a lot of them. And so I would have honed in on one of them and just did that while working full-time. But that's how financially I flopped out of New York City. I made incredible friends. I had an incredible time, made a lot of community. I really pieced together who I am and have a vibrant sense of self. But that wasn't worth my $10,000 in credit card debt. And so I am at home living a soft life in my Texas town. Some more fun facts are, during my time in New York City, I've had 8 jobs, 4 trips, 40 lovers, accumulated $10,000 in credit card debt. On the accomplishment side, like, just for me, for my self-worth, I made like 5 full-blown drag outfits for people as a commission. I worked on 3 looks that were on RuPaul's Drag Race. Like, I worked under my apprenticeship. I got complimented by Tan France when I was like an extra on Next in Fashion. I learned bartending and I'm like pretty into bartending now. And like, that's just something I never saw for me before. I showed a collection at a fashion show. A nonprofit had a fashion show and I showed a whole collection of clothes that I made, which was awesome. I had made friends and I made besties. I got 100. Oh no, my nose. How's it going, man? I got a surgery on my nether regions. That was $100,000. Insurance covered almost all of it, but it really helped me bottom permanently. Like, I could not bottom before the surgery, but after this $100,000 surgery, I could bottom in New York for the first time in my life, starting at age 24. I got my first job as a fashion intern. That was really cool, learning all of that. I learned how to stand up to myself in public and cuss people out on the street who were disrespecting me. I learned how to do that. I almost got in a fight. I was on a date. I almost got in a fight with this homophobic man who was like, how you call it? Harassing us, me and my date on the street for making out. He was black, I'm black. So he was like just yelling homophobic slurs at us. And I was like, "What your ugly ass, what are you saying?" And like, we went back and forth and my date was like, "Let's go." And he was like kind of stunned. He was like too stunned to speak. He was like, "Am I being roasted right now?" And you know, I never got in a fight, thank God. Hosted and curated my first cocktail party. It was my first wedding. And I got pretty good at sewing and design. So not all of it was a flop. Almost all, but not all of it. But yeah, feel free to comment any questions in the DMs. And for more content, please like and subscribe.